Okay, so first cut on the lamb is right where the dip of this back comes across. So we're going to use the handsaw and cut right here to separate the legs from the loin. And then we're going to split the legs in half, do one side at a time, just right down the middle. And the first one off for the sirloin chop. We'll trim up this little flank piece. And then any excess fat across makes it a little bit quicker on the table. And we're trimming that stuff down. These are all fair lambs, so they're pretty good as far as fat content. They're not too bad. First chops coming off are going to be up until the H-bone right there. These are the sirloin chops. When I cut, I count to make sure I get an even amount. And then they want half legs. So the half leg, my first cut's going to be right below the H-bone and then right at the top of the shank. And they don't want shanks, so we'll bone those out. If they do want shanks, then we'll trim off this knuckle piece right here so we can clean that shank up. When I'm cutting these, I want to keep this leg straight so that my chops come off straight and it sets up my leg of lamb roast. Otherwise, if I have it tilted, then it's going to make those cuts crooked and then my roast is going to be crooked. Half legs, again, there at the top of the shank. The next cut is going to be right behind where this shoulder comes through, and I want to make sure this loin is straight across so that it makes a straight, even cut. I'll move the loin out of here, out of the way. They want half chops and half roasts on the shoulder, so I'm going to split this straight down the neck, straight down the brisket. I'm going to trim off the neck, square up the shoulder, take off the shank. And this whole piece will be for stew meat. And there's one shoulder roast. And on the other side, do the same, neck, take off the shank. And this will be for shoulder chops. And then on the loin, I'm going to line this up so that I can see. And right down the middle of here, there's a natural straight line that I'm going to follow with the saw to make sure I split it even. So as I'm cutting, I'm going to start pulling this open so that it helps keep that straight, and it gives me a nice clean straight line. Trim the riblets. And clean up some kidney fat. Chops. Same thing on this side. Clean up this kidney fat. I clean it before I cut it, that way I don't have to go and trim all of the chops after. So right now we're going through a bunch of different fair lambs. We only do probably 20 or 30 lambs a year outside of fair season. So during fair season, which runs through the month of August, we do about 200 lambs. Most of them are all a standard cut. We don't do a lot of fancy stuff with them. Retail wise, we go through probably 20 or 30 lambs a year in retail. And we do a lot more stuff with those where they're fancier cuts, racks of lambs, rolled roasts, that type of stuff. But most of the lambs that we go through with the fair, they're all really good looking lambs, but a lot of people don't know what to do with them. And so we do typically a lot of standard cuts because people that buy the fair lambs are more trying to help the kids rather than actually buying lambs to eat for themselves. And so they just defer to us and we cut them the best way that we would recommend. And for that is a standard cut. That way they get a little bit of everything. And then there's not a lot of waste. And then it's also on our end with a standard cut. It's faster for us to go through all of the lambs where we have so many to cut. Because during fair time, we'll be cutting 40 or 50 lambs in a day. And so we've got to hurry and get through them. So standard cuts gives them the best quality variations or different products to go through, but then also helps us to get through them fast enough until that next batch starts coming through. So our shop's located in Morgan, Utah. The next town just up the road is Hennifer. It's just a smaller little town. Quite a bit of sheep and lamb. In that town, we get all of our retail lambs through a guy that raises them just right there in Hennifer. It's a really good quality local lamb that we'll carry out front. And we have a lot of people coming for our lamb from all over because in Utah, lamb isn't as popular. So we have pockets of people coming to our shop because they know that we have lamb and they know that it's from a local farmer. And so it's always really good quality. And we're not shipping it in from out of the country or out of state. We can just help support the locals that are local to our community. So going through a lot of these lamb cuts, making stew meat is part of just the standard cut that we do. But with the lamb, average carcass on the lamb is about 60 to 80 pounds. Yield is really good because you're not really losing a whole lot, just a little bit of bone weight. But even on that, you're gonna get 3 or 4 pounds of stew meat. You're gonna get 3 or 4 pounds of hamburger. You'll get an assortment of roasts and chops. And that's pretty much it. So there's really not a whole lot on a lamb. So we run one lamb at a time. That way we don't mix up anybody's orders. We divide each cutting board so that each board is one order. I'll be on the saw breaking the lamb down, and then we'll have somebody on the table trimming it up, and then somebody else scraping the bone dust off and then shifting the table. So as the table fills up, each order stays with itself. We have somebody running the grinder, and then they add in a sequence over by the grinder. They'll add where the burger or the sausage is coming through so that it stays in line with the orders. We have verbal commands as people are getting on and off the table with the wrappers. So the wrappers will say on the table, which tells everybody they're moving to the next order. They'll pull everything off of the table, line it over by their wrapping stations. Once they get off of the table, they'll announce off the table, which is a cue to the cutting side to shift the whole table down, and also to the wrappers to not pull anything else from the table. So we have it set up this way so we can run a lot of lambs super quick and efficient without mixing up orders. We have a wrapping manager that's at the end, and she's making sure that everybody is pulling their right stuff and stamping everything correctly. And as it goes into the crates, then they'll get crate tagged and then put into the freezer and then ready to be called for the customer to come pick up.